Alrighty, guys, welcome back. We've got another week of League Adventures, and obviously got the jersey on today for people watching. It's obviously Jersey Day coming up on Friday, and just obviously raising my little bit of awareness for the organ donation and things like that, and obviously a good cause for us sport lovers to get behind. Wear your jersey on the day. So Friday, I want to see everyone walking around in their colours and going from there. But start off with the hats off once again, and I have mentioned this team in the past, but I just thought after their efforts on the weekend, I wanted to mention them again, which is obviously the Warriors. Once again, putting a team who's in the 8 and in that dogfight for, I guess, the top 4 or so spot in the Knights, and 36-6 absolutely smashed them. Had Knights were just didn't even turn up to play, but to be fair, Warriors could easily have just put in the towel by now, which most teams would have probably done in their situation, and they've kept going, and it's a massive effort for a club, and it shows their culture's getting somewhere. It's going to a place where they need to get to, which is what you really want to see from that club. Obviously, the culture's probably been one of their biggest weaknesses, where this year it's obviously gone off, and especially big shout out to Todd Payton. He's turned that club around a lot, because at the start of the year, obviously Kearney was not doing a great job. We were both pretty critical of this, and obviously we're back to the twosome this week. Old Dane couldn't join us, unfortunately, but we'll get him back next week or so. But thanks for your contribution so far, Dane. We'll bring Sid into this one. How do you find things, Sid, and how you find the Warriors at the moment?
Yeah, I agree with the hats off. It's good. It's really impressive. I could see Todd Payton. He strikes me as a man that chooses his words carefully, and I just read a few little signs as to how he motivates his team, and he's got them playing for their family, and they revolve all their team talks around that. Do it for your family, do it for your country. And it seems to, I don't know the intricacies of the details, but whatever he's doing, it seems to be working. I saw a particularly touching story about Tuivasa Sheck who has a newborn he hasn't even met yet. So, and he's doing it for that, for that sort of, that's what's the fire in his belly, for his family. He's watching the new baby on Zoom calls, video calls. And adding to that, the players that did leave, which understandably they said, I've had enough. I need to see my family.
Yeah.
4, 5, 6, I think the number is now.
Yeah.
And the stock standard injuries that everyone gets. So astonishing effort, brilliant,
and massive.
Incredible.
Yeah, massive. And there was a few of those starting players that obviously went home. Their starting wingers went and things like that. So massive effort from the club. But I want to move on to another team at the moment, and this will be a first tackle option. It's just going to be a shorter video today, guys. It's going to be only the 3 tackles. And first is one of Sid's topics and his beloved Dragons. He wants to have a bit of a chat about Dean Young's first few weeks as coach. And take it away, Sid. What do you got?
Okay, look, when I brought this up, you suggested that I was going to have a blow up, and you thought it was coming because we lost. To be honest, it didn't surprise me. I was worried that we were going to have a flat game, or were due for a flat game, because even though we didn't win a lot of games, they were up for a lot of games. So the Raiders game, the Roosters game, if you remember, there was real big efforts. There were just massive efforts to try and get back in the mix, to try and get close to these teams and get some wins. And then we got 2 wins in a row, and we faced the Titans team who, if they have shown in the past, and we discussed this earlier in the year, that they can score, and I'm impressed with them, and they've been on the gradual rise. They've already got their coach, and they're already coming out of that, and they've received boost after boost in recent times. And they can score. They can throw the ball around. They can score points. And then we had a flat game, the Dragons, a bit of a flat game. They were breaking tackles. I think there was 1 offload in the first half. So they were running 1 out, and there was, You know, no second pace play. The play the balls were average speed, and 10 points. They were hanging on to try and win. They were on 10 points, and obviously 10 points is not enough to beat any team. You know, aside from maybe the Bulldogs, Titans could score, and yeah, then they beat them in the ass. Yeah, it wasn't enough. But the issue I have with the coaching, to get to the point, is I feel like it's more of the same. While on the positive, it's refreshing to see finally a different guy talking on the media, and in the post-match interviews and the pre-match interviews, whatever else, just a different guy with different words. Because McGregor, I knew every word that comes out of that guy's mouth, every word. And you can only imagine what the players are going through. Game in, game out for 7 years, the same team talks, the same one-liners, you know. I won't go into them because it frustrated the hell out of me, you know. They needed to change. That rot was way overdue. That seeped into the club and into the players. But so on the positive, it is great that there's the new voice there. But I feel like already Dean Young is showing a couple of little things, and it's not about his ability. He's only 36. I think it's way too early for him to be a head coach. His real focus is on, it's so obvious, it's on effort. He's saying blokes that rip in, they're going to get started. They're going to get a start. Blokes that don't rip in, it's not good enough for the Red V and all that stuff. So that's great. But there are motivator coaches and there are tactician coaches. These days, tacticians. The motivator coaches, you know, the face slappers of the 80s, and, you know, those, the
Rodoniguses.
Sorry?
The Rodoniguses of the world.
Yeah. You know, and those kind of coaches, the only time the motivators are good are those origin coaches. It's on 3 games. You can fire up your team and get them going. The tacticians are the real good ones. The tacticians, if you think about it, if you've got a game plan that can win, you've got players that can win, that can do something and achieve something and take on any team, that turns into motivation. So the tactician that provides the game plan and you've got the players and all that sort of thing, then they get motivated. This business about just keep whipping and whipping and whipping. That's what I feel like verbally he's saying. Blokes have got to rip in. I don't care how long the season is or how tired you are, what niggle injuries you've carried, and very little on the tactical front. And one other flaw he has, he showed all his cards in all his interviews. He even to the point where he said, "I'm going to bring Ben Hunt off 10 minutes before half time, and then maybe 10 minutes after half time."
Yeah.
If you get to do that, a lot of people didn't agree with it, and Greg Alexander and Bray Finasta had a blow up about it, saying Ben Hunt shouldn't be tired, he's the highest paid player. Fair enough, that's right. I agree with that. But what I saw, which no one alluded to, was he's telling us his game plan.
Yeah.
Are you serious? It's like playing poker with a guy and saying, you know, I was looking for the, I was worried that you have a flush. Well, obviously he doesn't have a flush. You know,
Yeah.
something like that. So, no, it's I can't see this going well, and I think they can see it, and he's going to go back to assistant very soon.
Do you think, as an outsider, I look at it as in, I think he was put into basically a den full of lions, Dean Young, and with not much else other than he's going to get eaten alive. Because literally he got the job with the Dragons. Let's be honest, they weren't looking like they were going to make the 8 at all. And your boardroom and your board has kept a coach on where people have said now for 2 years or so he should have been gone. And he's basically just had a roster that's been given to him, not one that he's made or wanted to do. I get he's a bit young. I don't think he's probably the coach for you guys moving forward. I think he's just the interim for now, and I wouldn't be offering him the full-time coach. But can you give him a bit of leniency with what he's actually been given? Because if you sort of start to peel back some of the layers, I think there's some guys in the boardroom at the moment that should be getting asked a lot more questions than seems to be asked.
Yeah, look, in short, it's a mess. I mean, only now we're starting to hear that from the public and from the press. I don't know what it was about the club or McGregor, or would they secretly were happy for the club to struggle. But there was always tiptoeing around the issues. They never really. It's only now. It's only now that the people are saying, "Well, hang on, this is ridiculous. These clubs. It's just you can't just be filing, and there was. I will tell you one example. Just I know we're stretching it now with this first tackle, but they had a chance to sell the club to a multi-billionaire, and they voted against it. And the report is the reason they did it is because they feared that they would get their jobs reviewed and they would lose their jobs. If that's not jobs for the boys, I don't know what is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's mate. It's just look. The only shining light I would say is that that the new CEO seems to be a little bit more reachable to the point where fans are emailing him and he's directly replying.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, no, it hasn't been in a long time. We had the Wizard of Oz doused for so many years. You couldn't talk to him. Not nobody, not no how. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So look, I'm clinging, but I'm hopeful.
I think that also points out, going back to our hats off, is how good Todd Payton is doing as a job. Because he's an interim coach himself at the moment, and you can just see the two spectrums and how different they are. And he's doing a miraculous job. And you often see with clubs when the interim coach does come in, the players sort of see it as, all right, we've got 2 months off school, so to speak. We can sort of muck up a bit, and next year we'll come back and focus. So that's what I mean by young, just in terms of he's been given a bit of a basket case to deal with. But yeah, I think it's fair to say the Dragons have slipped down once again to probably where they were at the start of the year, which is disappointing, I guess, for the fans. But we'll move on to a team that I think makes you guys look pretty solid at the moment, even though I think they're one spot above you guys or something. But the Tigers, and I was sitting there on the weekend, I was watching this game, and they were in it for 30 minutes, and then it just fell to pieces. Penrith didn't seem to do much. It just seemed to all of a sudden Penrith were on 30 points. And I'm just thinking, where has that gone? And it made me think about more so to the point of the spine, because if your team is in a dogfight like that, the players who are going to come under the microscope is your spine. And not to pick him out, but obviously you've got Dewey was fullback. You've got Benji and Brooks as your halves, and I think it was Little was the hooker at the time. Oh, no, sorry, it was I've got a mental blank here. What was it, Sid?
Grant.
Yeah, Harry Grant. Sorry, that's right. So Grant as well, and he's off back to the Storm next year, which is pretty much signed, sealed, delivered now. So they're losing arguably their best player this year. For mine, Dewey isn't a fullback. I don't want to be too harsh with that, but he just seems to be. He's getting bashed. I feel sorry for him because he's getting bashed in a position that I don't think he's comfortable in and he doesn't want. And he's pretty much getting played there. You've got Benji. I'll go to Benji now. You got Benji Marshall, who is 35 or something now, 36. Look, I've read a lot of things in the media this week and on Facebook pages and stuff. They're going, why have they got rid of Benji? Blah blah blah. Look, the guy does one good attacking thing a game, yet he lets in 2 to 3 tries in defence. His defence is very bad. He's like a turnstile out there. They score often at the other team on his side because unfortunately his defence just isn't up to it anymore. And then your other issue is you've got Brooks, who's been there for a number of years now, and he has another. I wrote this down. They've signed him till 2023. They've stuck with him for. He's been at that club for what seems like 8 to 10 years or something now, and haven't made the finals with him yet. There's a question there if your halfback can't orchestrate something in that time frame. I'm sorry, but he's not the right man for the job. Now, they've got Dewey till 2023. They've got Benji they've told to go. They've got Reynolds until the end of next year, which by reports they're trying to offer him out somewhere, but I don't think anyone will pick up that pay packet at the moment. You've got Brooks obviously till 23. Grant's gone this year. Little's 2021, so the end of next year. And Billy Walters is the end of next year as well. Sid, where to for the Tigers at the moment?
They're in a position similar to the Dogs are just coming out of. If you remember the Dogs, I was talking to my mate actually on Sunday, was a mad dog supporter, and then every time I see him, he's just like, oh, we're nearly there. And literally every 6 months I see him, and he's like, yep, nearly there. What he's referring to is the end of Reynolds' contract, the end of, I know Reynolds is at Tigers now, but Mbai contract, the Morris boys, Aaron Woods, these guys they're all at other clubs that they're still paying for. They're all back-ended deals. And I left this one for last. Greg Eastwood.
He's,
You know, they'll still pay reserve grade. It was on 800 grand.
yeah.
Game up until the start of last year, you know? And they're finally at the end, all that. Like, you imagine all those players, those young blokes that they've got. They'll be all right, you know? They go all right. They've got heart. The club has heart, and the players have got heart. But yeah, now the Tigers are in the same situation. So they're paying Reynolds overs. I know that Mbai's on big dollars. Reynolds and Brooks, actually, by the way, it's his 8th season, I read. Brooks has been 8th season. Reynolds and Brooks are on 1.6 million combined. Benji's on 300,000. And Packer is on 650. And he's only in when they got injuries. I know for a fact because he was at St. George and we couldn't even come close to that offer. And it was like the highest for a front rower in the league at the time. You know? Yeah, so they got those guys that are on just big cabbage, and they need to find a way to mold that into you know, a sustainable thing. You mentioned how many halves they have, for example. They can't put 4 into 2. And they've chosen Benji. And as far as Benji, he's at the defensive that you rightfully point out the defensive issues has. Very similar to Darius Boyd. He's still got it between the years, but he's not a young man anymore. And they're just to the point where subconsciously, the only way you're going to make those tackles is if you really, like, you hold it, like your life depends on it, like you're hanging off a cliff. Like if you hit a guy and you're falling off, you got to hold it like you're going to die if you don't. That's the only way, because they don't have the strength of the young blokes anymore. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. You know, and that's what I mean. Darius, like you look at Benji, he's the second try assist in the league. Darius is up there as well, considering Brisbane are coming, you know, second last. I think he's in the top 5 or 6 in try assists as well. But you know, they've gone past it, and I think Benji will retire though. It's bad, and we haven't even started on the coach yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was my next point with the Tigers is in terms of the coach, and look, there's been a lot of things spoken about him in terms of his style. He's a bit full on, so to speak, I guess, his style. I thought about this, and there's 2 aspects to it. Yes, he's too full on, but you also look at the Tigers and how they've been over the last 8 or so years we're talking about. I feel like they've been very babied. I feel like they've had coaches who have babied a lot of these players like your Brooks and that through things and said, it's going to get better, you're going to get better, and it's all good. It was 1 bad game, or it was 2 bad games. And all of a sudden it's got to 8 bad years for a club that has made jokes about finishing 9th every time. So, look, they got Maguire in for a reason, and that was to toughen the joint up. Now, I still think he is the right coach there, but they need to stick with him now for 4 to 5 years because he needs to now build this roster to players that he wants to coach. At the moment, half of that team isn't players that he can coach because they don't like that style. They want to go to a flamboyant team where you can throw it around and score 30 points, but you're going to concede 42. He wants a team in there that will score 10 points and will restrict the opposition to score 9 points and still win the game and be happy with it. So I think he is the right coach. I don't know what you think about that, Sid. For mine, I think for now he's the right coach. He just needs some time to bring in that roster to what he wants. Your thoughts?
Yeah, you only got to look at the South team that he had when he won the Premiership. He had some serious, players, but he had men. He didn't have boys, with respect to the Tigers guys. You know, he He had Greg Inglis in his prime. He had Sam Burgess, George Burgess, that famous try through the whole Bulldogs pack. That was a ferocious team, ferocious team. And he's come to Tigers, and they're kittens at the moment. They're not Tigers,
But they are.
It's a bit harsh, but I'm inclined to agree with you. I criticised the coach for breaching that rule of blowing up, giving your team a rocketing one too many times. He did it early, he did it again, and then he plays into your theory that they've been babied too much because they had an honesty session which got leaked to the Daily Telegraph somehow. And mind you, a few of the players are annoyed that because it was supposed to be a private session. They had an honesty session, and some of the players said that they feel like they're so scared to play or throw a ball or something like that because they get worried they're going to drop it, and next week they're going to get dropped. You might get man of the match one week, then have an average game, and then he's out of there. So it is a fine topsy-turvy situation here. Yes, he wants to get him to another level, and maybe one too many rocketings. Maybe not. But now we're seeing the side effects of this. Those South boys that I mentioned, they're tough men. They can cop a rocketing at half time and come out and respond. They won't curl up and want to go to a safe place.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think it'll be an interesting off-season for the Tigers. I think they're going to be some pretty big movements in the player market. They're trying to get rid of a few of these players. So I'm interested to see what they do at hooker because that's a massive loss losing Grant. And there's not many out there at the moment to replace him, which is, I can only see that at the moment the Tigers going backwards for next year. So, but we'll move on to something a bit more positive and some better teams. And obviously, the finals are just around the corner now. We've got a month left of footy and it's finals time. So I think there's probably three clear favourites at the moment for the Premiership. Big guns. Sid, who's your winner of the grand final and why?
Okay. We did this at the start of the year, and I remember what I said. I said you have to lose one to win one. And I picked the Raiders. Obviously, we had disclaimers, and we said, look, injuries can come into play. There could be a 6 more. No, it's the last call, and it ruins the team, like what happened to the Raiders last year. So it could be anything. But I thought the Raiders, I thought they'll play the Eels in the grand final. Penrith had come out of nowhere for me. I lost faith in, I'll be honest, I lost faith in Ivan Cleary. I thought his reputation far exceeded his ability, but looks like he's got the right mix and the right formula, and we won't go into that. It's there for all to see. They're flying sky high at the top of the table.
Yeah.
Storm will always be there in Melbourne, so in Roosters. So there's 5 teams that can win it, but I guess I'll stick with the Raiders. I mean, I picked them. I know they lost their hook. They're playing a different game, and it's suiting them, to be honest.
Oh, big call. No one's really said the Raiders at the moment. That wasn't part of my big three, so you've thrown a curveball in there. I'm sticking with who I said from the start as well. I'm sticking with the Roosters by probably a fingernail at the moment to the Storm, and then I think I've got Penrith just below those two, just in terms of finals experience. They don't have the squad yet to do it. Where you've obviously got 2 big squads there that have been there, done it before, and both teams are getting their injuries back now, and they're going to be fit come the right time of the season and have a bit of a layoff. Some of their key players like your Cordners and things like that, and Keary's coming back. They'll be all fresh, ready for this onslaught. And Sonny Bill, for mine, we've spoken about it. I don't think he's going to be a big player in terms of on the field, but I think he'll give him a bit more confidence around the joint. People like Tupanui and things like that and Butcher have just come into a league of their own lately and going crazy. So for mine, I'm sticking with the Roosters. I think they can do it. Who knows? Maybe we're going to be a Roosters-Raiders grand final then. And we'll have League of Inches commentary on that one.
Yeah, we'll do a live feed that one, all right?
We'll have to both predictions. But there you go, guys. Just the short one today, and we're going to do another one midweek or towards the end of the week. Just some predictions to help you guys with your tipping. Hopefully, we help you guys out. But thanks for tuning in, and thanks again, Sid.
No problem. Sounds good.